Hey friends, have you ever been deeply influenced by someone else? Influencing others is a worthy endeavor, and the same principles that are used to influence others can be used to influence ourselves. We may not even be aware of them. Do you remember Don Quixote, that crazy man who fought windmills? Don Quixote was written in the 1600s by Miguel de Cervantes about an idealistic, delusional, self-proclaimed knight bent on chivalry. We see a powerful concept in the story, and I'm going to call it the Dulcenea principle. I'll explain. It's about how we can affect the lives of others by envisioning and verbalizing a better version of what we see. Most of us have been inspired by coaches and parents and teachers and preachers, lovers or friends, and most of that was by a kind word, a pat on the back, and additional support. Well, Don Quixote meets a woman of the street, a prostitute and a barmaid in a small village. She also tends to swine. To Don Quixote, she's something else. In her, he sees something uplifting and beautiful, and he affirms this over and over again to her. He even gives her a new name, Dulcenea, thus the Dulcenea principle. It's a new name associated with a paradigm that in Spanish is associated with sweetness, which is far from what she really was in the eyes of many. At first, she denies it. Then she ridicules. The old script she has in her mind is overpowering. She writes him off as a wild-eyed fantasizer. But the man of the mancha is persistent, and he makes continual deposits of unconditional love, dedicating his wild exploits of fighting windmills and wizards to her, his princess, Dulcenea. His thoughts gradually penetrate her mind, and her scripting begins to change, and she thinks of herself and envisions herself differently. She starts to respond to his vision, and she becomes different. Little by little, she changes her lifestyle. She believes and acts from her new paradigm. Initially, this was irritating to many people who had known her most of her life and refused to change their paradigm of her. Most of them were her customers. Later, when she was tempted to revert back to her old lifestyle, he calls her to his deathbed. He sings a beautiful song, The Impossible Dream, and whispers, "Never forget how you are Dulcenea." He helped change how she thought of herself, and she changed herself. She responded to that vision. We have learned that this works with others as well as with ourselves. We can carefully craft how we speak to ourselves and others with powerful results. Dr. Shad Helmstetter is a pioneer and expert in the field of self-improvement and self-talk. And he says, we've learned that change is possible. The brain can change. That's because of the brain's neuroplasticity, its ability to continually change throughout your lifetime. It adapts. The most important process necessary to rewiring the brain is repetition. The brain is designed to pay attention to the messages that are repeated most often, end quote. If you're discouraged, there's hope. Study these concepts of self-thought, self-talk, self-image. Learn how to speak to yourself and others in more uplifting and edifying ways. Another fascinating story is one of a computer program that was incorrectly input. It labeled a class of bright kids as dumb and the class of supposedly dumb kids as extremely bright. The computer program was the first primary criterion at the beginning of the year that created the teachers' paradigms about how they viewed their students. Think about that. When the school administration finally discovered that they had made a mistake, 6 months later, they decided to test the kids without telling anyone what happened. The results were astounding and amazing. The bright kids had decreased in their scores, and the difficult kids had dramatically improved. This is just one experiment around this concept. If we can influence others by how we change our views and what we verbalize to them, could it be possible that we can do this, meaning us, we, with ourselves and others, not just these pretty stories? We can do it. Self-talk and self-image is a powerful weapon in our arsenal to fight the fight of self-improvement. There are entire bodies of knowledge around self-talk, self-image, and self-improvement that are proven, measurable, and sound. Even the philosophers of old, and many of them have said, as a man thinketh, so is he. And be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. I encourage you to be mindful and self-aware, especially if you want to improve yourself in some aspect. Think about how you envision yourself or you envision others, your kids, your wife, your husband. This is important to visualize and verbalize a more powerful paradigm to them and to ourselves. I think these are sound principles. They've been proven, they've been studied by neuroscientists, by many people who are in the realm of self-improvement. They've been practiced with athletes, with students, and people in many aspects of high performance. As always, I'm Scotty Nichols. I'm here to share with you the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, and positive. And if you follow these things, I do believe I'll see you at the top.